All right. Today we're talking with my friend, Mr. Doug Smith, our friend, Justin, Mr. Doug Smith.
Yes.
Doug and I actually graduated from together from the same Master of Science in Entrepreneurship and Applied Technologies. Was that the degree that we
I
got?
think that's what it was. MSc?
Okay, yeah, it's a mouthful. Back in the day, uh, I would think Doug has always stood out as somebody who's always thinking like that next layer deeper than everybody else, especially me. This is like from everything from politics to the crypto conversations I have with him, but never in like that growth hacker, fluffy BS kind of way. Um, and I think Justin, like you and I, he's always somebody who like never really seems to just accept how things work, and there's got to be like a better way. Um, Officially, he's the director of AI operations at Element 451, where I think he focuses most of his time on putting AI into real kind of ops systems. But what makes Doug interesting for this conversation and our audience is I think partly the path that he took to get here. He started in, I think, finance and strategy, and then he moved to operations improvement, and then like got into data science and AI consulting, and now he does like AI ops. And so I think he's going to bring like a super practical viewpoint to all the things that we talk about all the time. He is also somebody who's like hugely involved in the tech ecosystem here in the Tampa Bay area. He shows up, he participates, he's in the signal chats that I'm in, always sends me like a million different things every day that I've got to go and read in white papers. And I think while he is not a programmer, at the core, he's still a type of hacker. Not in the security sense, but like the classic sense of somebody who wants to like tinker with systems and things. So thoughtful, curious, and like just one of those people I really like. And so, Doug, thank you very much for coming on and chatting to us and our audience. Really appreciate you, man.
No, I appreciate it. I always enjoy chatting with you all whenever I get the opportunity to do it. So
Yeah.
take
Normally
see
we
seize it when we can. Yeah.
normally we do it with like beers or like we're yelling
Yeah.
at something, but like this time we got a microphone in front of us and we'll do it a little
Yeah.
more.
Right.
All
Yeah.
right. So Mr. Smith, I hope you're doing well today. Tell us a little bit about your origin story. I think I touched on some of it, but
Yeah.
how did you get to being where you are today?
Yeah. So I worked in the world of finance and like background, went to school in economics, did a bunch of like trading and stuff like that when I was in school and after, and ended up in a pretty cool like position working for a venture capital firm, looking at deals, looking at new ideas, and just like that sort of like the newness of the world. Like, the world is going to be a better place because people are working on solving these very thorny problems to save time, to save lives, to save resources, etc. Then I went on a path of worked with a private equity group that was in that pursuit in the education space, and then understanding, you start going to this like, oh, great, this is the numbers, the ones, zeros, how these things make money. Then you get the next layer of like, well, how do they stay open and how do they actually solve and remediate the problems of like students and sort of digging into those problems, like the systematic challenges, take Maslow's hierarchy of needs. How do you figure that out? Well, data, right? So learn data, figure out how that can be applied. And, I had an econ background, but just it was, I would say, one of those things you didn't really use until you're several years out of it. You start looking at regressions and building regression models, and you start figuring out these are the sort of signals of why a student might not be successful. Then you say, like, great, we figured out who's not going to be successful. What can we do to remediate that? And then you start working on like the systems and processes and change management, the people processes, the technology to remediate those things. And that was sort of where I've gone. And to me, I always loved this like super ambiguous problem that was never able to be solved before. People have all tried it. I'm like, there's a way to probably do it if we just think about it in a different way. I'm a big proponent of like taking other approaches that other industries have taken to solve the exact same problem and seeing can they be applied to a more traditional business. So that sort of, reclaim and demonstrate. Don't do hardcore R&D. Like somebody who's probably figured out this problem for you elsewhere in a different use case. And I mean, that's the beauty of academia too. Bountiful amount of research papers that have probably told you how to solve for this said problem you have. And now you just amplify that with LLMs and you just get just hooked. And I will say this much, and Greg, I know you say it often, everyone says this often. If you turn off from AI for a week, you're like, an entire year just flew by of new developments and new changes. It's just, it's just fantastic to see. Frank, I'll say like, it's one of the both, it is at, I'm like polar opposites. Most super excited about it, but know it is very much going to disrupt a lot of human people's lives at the same time. Like people have been able to accomplish and do things that they was thought impossible or take hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars or tons of staff to do. And they're doing it themselves with agents now to, well, do we hire those things? Do we ever solve those problems again? Do we need people to solve those big complex problems or we just keep doing more? I don't know. But
Yeah.
that's my take on it. That's sort of how I got to where I'm at.
So
So back,
how did you get from like the PE and the PE side or like the finance side into the
yeah,
education side?
so I went into working out with a portfolio company, and stuck it out there, and then went into the world of consulting.
They put you in
They
like an
hired me
ops.
on.
They put like the
Yeah,
PE guys put you in an ops role.
yeah.
They were like, "Go
So
fix this." Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
and that's, I mean, that's what often I was like the fixer. Like you can look at things in a different way and help these people that are really competent. Like they have a ton of domain experience. They don't know how to translate domain experience into technology, into data to be able to act on it and to do it in a scalable fashion, right? They can probably brute force it by, back in the day, pulling all the spreadsheets together and spinning out countless hours and figuring it out to like
Mhm,
that whole access database or series of spreadsheets be put into a SQL database that then can be run with cron jobs and then that can produce the report versus you having 5 managers spending their entire day building that. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So, it's
uh,
just
so I guess I mean this br- brings up like a really interesting point for like that we run into a lot of times, which is that people come in to talk to us, and you know they understand there's like a huge amount of probably hidden value in the data that they have in their business. Um, but they like a lot of companies we find like they don't think they have a ton of data, but they actually have like a lot of operational I don't know signals that there's stuff there's inputs coming in all over.
Yeah, kinda data exhaust, if you will. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's like little artifacts of data like sprinkled around, and sometimes there's like some things that need to be done to like massage to make it all come together. So like, I mean, all companies have this, right? You probably have a series of clients. It could be like a handful to a ton. Is there anything that could be like signaling why they might be leaving you? Like, do you have a product that like feeds the data out? Do you have, if you don't have a product, do you have something else that could be like a key signal? Like, yeah, your accounts receivables, they stop paying you. That's normally a signal. Um, if it's like a restaurant, even, right? Like, you have the same people coming in the door and they stop coming in. Like, why did they stop coming in? What was the root cause issue with this? Like, and often it's just like you start having the conversations and then you're like, I could probably create a way to standardize and collect the information. No, great. Now I'm standardizing, collecting the information. So I'm creating a layer of quality data. And I think that's the biggest challenge that everyone has in some capacity, from huge, mega, multi-trillion dollar value companies down to the mom and pop shop, is like, think of how you want to collect the data in such a way that you can look at how, what, and why that thing happened, and very clearly some type of unique key. If it has to be as rudimentary as an email address or a telephone number or a physical address, those can work. Best thing is to probably get something else. Um, Figure out how you could, and if need be, create that unique key. Figure out how to get into your multiple systems. So you've got Greg, Justin, Doug as customers. Give that unique key. Put that into, here's your QuickBooks, to your inventory system, to your product solution, to whatever else it is, and start associating that work. Are they Facebook followers of you? You can start doing all of these things of like, oh, that's Doug Smith, same Doug Smith, that's my client. Put that unique key on him. He's liking me, that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden you realize they're influencers. Like there's a whole ton of hacky things that you can do. So going back to the hacky
Mhm.
thing, you do these hacky things, but they'll get you to a place that you were before of like giving you insights. I will say the biggest challenge of any organization and every organization I've gone into is there's often though a hyper belief that the data is very good and there's a ton of it, but no one
Wait,
actually.
people actually believe that?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, like they very much like, we have great data architecture, great data stream, and you walk in and like can't answer basic questions of like, how many people are doing and utilizing these types of products and features. Oh, we can figure it out from mixed panel and like go over here and spend like 5 hours creating this like one-off SQL thing. And I'm like, well, we have like tons of products. Like that's going to be really hard if I'm an account manager having to understand like how are they using the product. They're not like experts in data. They're not experts in querying this. So like they're going to have to go click on the instance and figure it all out and spin that up. So that's a hard thing to do. And that's the beauty of a lot of what's happening though, is if you are able to gather the data and position it in terms of what is the tacit knowledge often as founder, director, or manager, or whatever it is going to be, you probably have a tacit knowledge of like how a thing's supposed to be done. How did you figure that out? And can you replicate that with data to then translate that and give that over to a staff member, like on a consistent fashion? Greg, I imagine you have a very different approach to solving a very angry client than a lot of your staff do. But how do you codify that and how do you translate that? That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Probably
I try and make them laugh, to be honest. That's generally what I try and do. And then once they're chuckling, then they get less angry with you.
So like, but you go into this, like there's a series of things that you can do.
Okay. You don't have to laugh at that. It's fine.
So
I think what's interesting about this to me is that, like, because I think you're right, like, there's kind of like a few things that are true. A lot of organizations sort of do have this often naive belief that like they have a lot of data and it's good and it's organized well, right? And there's also the converse is also true, where there are a lot of companies that actually don't realize that they actually have data, right? That like they don't realize that, oh, my invoicing system has lots of data in it that I just never thought about, that it's sitting back there. And what's interesting is that before now, because to use that data wasn't really something a lot of people paid attention to, because to use that data meant you had to know how to get it, which meant you had to know how to get to it, SQL and integrations and all that.
APIs, the whole
APIs and all of this. You had to know how to analyze it, which means you had to have like a real person that knew how to like do regressions and k-means and all of this kind of stuff, right? But now you have that. And so all of a sudden, this sort of like exhaust that was mostly useless because it was not something you could do anything with, now all of a sudden has instantly turned into this extraordinarily valuable asset that every single company in the world is sitting on top of, which actually makes me think then that there might actually be a wave of sort of data governance work to be done as consultants and products and all of that, to basically say, well, we just turned a bunch of useless garbage into gold that you're now sitting on, but somebody still has to help you refine it. And that's probably a layer of service that's coming in the market. An opportunity, I would assume.
Doug used to do that job.
Yeah. So that was, and then at the end of the day, it's way easier to do now, but like useful example, right? Who are your clients? You know who they are. You probably have a job title, you probably have their name, and you probably have their company. You could go to something like Clay and say like, hey, find me lookalikes in this geographic area for new business. Here's my ICP, so my ideal customer profile. Here's that list. Here are people that are just like that, have similar job titles and names. Boom, like that. Okay. And then guess what? You find their LinkedIn, you find their email. So you can very quickly like sort of scale yourself up. One of the real novel ones that I heard though, and Greg, it might've been from you or it might've been somebody else, but like these individuals that do like trades type work of like, they have a shared client base. Often, like the person that has to have their lawn care stuff done.
This is for me. This is why we keep talking about lawn care. Justin and I talking about lawn care all the time.
Yeah, it's just like that is the pathway. It's like the pathway in of like your lawn needs to get taken care of. Now, if you have a very astute, and I think a lot of these people are entrepreneurial. Like, yeah, they're like, I have a skill set that like I can also paint stuff. I can also do like light carpentry. I can fix the fence. I can do hardscaping, or I can do the window trim, or I can, I'll charge you an extra $25 and I'll mop all your hard surfaces outside so they look great. And you're like, what an upsell. Mm-hmm. What an upsell. But
absolutely, land and expand.
And the thing is, you have everyone's addresses and you're like, hey, guess what? I can go on Google Maps. I don't have to drive there. I
Yeah.
can look at what they have, and I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, we can estimate what this might be for you. Like right
Right.
out
And
of
I
the
tell
gate.
you what, like this stuff nowadays, we were having this discussion earlier. There is like this sort of dislocation in the market right now. We're recording this in the spring of 2026. And right now, the state of this is that there is an insane amount of power available out there for nearly free that most people don't know about and aren't really using, which means that if you lean into it, and if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, and invest in that for a while, you're going to have a real sizable advantage until that market dislocation kind of heals itself back up, which it will, but it will take some time.
But then you'll be ahead of anybody anyway.
Right.
You'll be a
You'll
survivor.
already be ahead
Yeah.
at that point.
You're
Right.
going to be a survivor in the tsunami and or when the tide goes out situation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality of it. It's like
Yep.
the ability to maintain and be nimble in what you do. And I think that's one of the core things that I see here. And, like I've transitioned over to like the OpenClaw sort of emergence of things, and like people have really gotten claw pilled, and I can totally understand why. Like,
Okay,
there's
you might
very
need to, Doug. You might need to step back and explain what OpenClaw is
all right. So OpenClaw is
without using the word lobster.
yeah, without using the word lobster. So it is an open source framework that allows for individuals to download that onto a computer device, a virtual machine, which is a computer in the cloud, and have access to it. And you plug in an LLM, large language model, your ChatGPTs, your Claudes, your Geminis of the world with the fancy API key. And you can have conversation and then can build a lot for you. When I say build a lot for you, different types of web apps, web technology, task processes, and things of that nature. So all that sort of wonderful creative idea of like, what if I could do that today kind of thing, you can have a conversation with OpenClaw and it will try its best to do it. And a lot of people have had a lot of success with it because the large language models themselves have become and gotten to a place that they're performant enough to actually execute against that. Will it be the most 100% efficient way? Probably not. Will it be hacky? Yes. Will it potentially be a security nightmare? Yes. Would I recommend you downloading this on your personal computer? Questionable. Could you
No,
get a DigitalOcean?
I'm going to say no, unless you
Yeah.
really know what you're doing.
Yeah. Do not install it on your personal computer or your corporate computer. These are big no-nos right now. And
So
it's just
what kind of computer then? A library computer? What other kind of computers are there?
Well, Justin Davis, let me show you this small little Mac Mini that I have sitting on
That's
my
true.
desk.
I mean, I literally
With
have
audio,
one sitting
which has
to my
nothing
right.
on it except OpenClaw and an operating
Maybe.
system. It has its own email address. Not hooked. This is on a separate network to the office. This is not
Yeah.
even on the same network that we're on the Wi-Fi system here. So
I'm a little more cowboy because mine is hooked up to my home network and has access to all the devices on my network and all of my smart devices and has carte blanche access to everything. So I'm a little bit
you
more
are a dive without testing the water kind of guy. I know.
generally speaking. Yeah.
Doug, my plan for this little Mac Mini over here is to have another Mac Mini running OpenClaw on it as well, but that one's hooked up to a shotgun. And the second that the other one steps out of line, it just pulls the trigger. That's the plan.
you just get like the notification that there was a loud noise at the office one day, 2:30 at night. You'll see the logs of what happened.
Yeah, the expression I don't trust it. I wouldn't trust it as far as I can throw it is really inaccurate here because this is a Mac Mini. I could throw it a long way.
Long way, right?
So
I could yeet that thing across the pond.
So, and not to like just side skirt the potential security risk, and those are very valid. You can find a ton of web content around that. The unlock, though, for people, I think, has been pretty amazing. Like I have friends that do commercial development. Very straightforward. How would you figure out where to go do deals? How to figure out these kind of things? Like what available parcels are out there? And these are really intelligent guys, girls that are able to do this, which is like they know how to go do that, and it's really hard and it's costly to do it. And now what they found out is like they can go to OpenClaw, they can ask it like, "Hey, can you build this thing for me, this prototype?" And it works. And they're like, "Oh wow!" So I'm listening to all the board of planning for every single county in the state or in my target state, or I was able to map utilizing a GIS software package all of the potential available properties that would be for sale on a particular interstate in an area that I'm trying to develop on. That work would have been extremely expensive, very time and toil. But the benefit of this is now, like, they figured this out and they're like, I probably want to, and every time that I talk with one of these folks, they're like, how can I turn this into a product and sell to other people? And I'm
Right.
like, so there you go. Like, now you have to harden it. Now you have to, like, you go through the sort of traditional SaaS based process of like, it needs to be secure. You have to be able to stand it up. It's got to have all these other critiques, but there's value there. You validated the concept and the idea around it. So that, I think, is the beauty of what's happening with OpenClaw, with Replit, with Lovable, is like the concept idea can gain and garner traction to validate something relatively quickly. And then you can then explore working with folks like the level of folks at SourceCode to turn that into a robust, repeatable, scalable solution. Um, and you've in part curtailed some of the market risk of like, does this solve a pain point for people? Um, and I look at it that way. So I freaking love it.
So if you are if you are like a service business or anything, and like you've got some data, or maybe you're like working on collecting it. Like, what is the first? Where do you start? What's like the first automation or the first like system thing that you build? Like, how do you identify
I
what the low
like.
hanging fruit is, or what you should do
I think
first?
it's too. I think you start with dollars, right? Dollars and cents. What's going to bring in net new dollars, and then what's going to make sure you get paid on something, right? Like understanding, like very simply, hey, here is
So not cost reduction. You're not looking at like
yeah.
okay,
And the
yeah,
reason why
say
is like
more.
that's gonna help you validate your data system of like what do I need to be able to do to bring people all the way through, um, and like where
And
are the cost centers at? Like
can you say so tell us more about that? Like, what do you mean like where the dollars are?
so what is bringing in dollars for you? So how, at the end of the day, how did the customer end up with you in some capacity? Like you might have a marketing person, you might have an agency that's doing stuff for you. Have you ever asked to like pull all that data together, have them pull the data for you, send it over to you, pass that into an LLM? Ideally, you have a business account that's secured. It's not passing it into the ether. We're just going to gloss over that, but you start getting answers out of like where potentially people are coming from you. And then like now you start realizing, where am I spending my dollars and time on gathering and bringing in front office people? Or do I have like sales reps that are not doing types of work? I've got a buddy who's utilizing an OpenClaw LLM like solution to review all the calls and transcripts that his staff are having, of like, what are the questions that they're asking? What
Interesting.
thematically is happening? Like, what is happening on this situation? Because that would have been absolutely unscalable for a human to do. Like, there's no way that you're going to probably listen to 10 to 40 hours of telephone calls every single week for all of your folks. You would have to hire 1 to 2 full-time people to go do that for you. Now with an LLM, you can. They're like, you can start thematically understanding like, hey, this client's angry at me. Okay, great. Here's my summary of like why they're angry at me. Like, implementing those basic solutions, super useful. The summarization of the interactions you're having with folks is super helpful. On the back,
Your suggestion is like start at the top end of the funnel rather than like a business process that you want to automate.
yeah.
Interesting. Like
Yeah.
I I've actually like for a long time thought the opposite is true, which is like try and find out what's like burning the most amount. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying like for me, it's like what's burning the most amount of time where those people could be doing other
The
things.
time and toil. Well, there's a component of this, right? Which is like when you start going through that, you start realizing where the time and toil is at. So to help you basically identify where you would start getting the time efficiencies. So let's take this like the traditional sales role. Where is most time and toil done? Prospect research and finding it, and then documenting that into the solution. What is the biggest time suck? The biggest time suck is documenting the outcome. Can you automate the outcome of populating the information in the Salesforce, HubSpot, Notion,
From like the conversation.
from the conversation, right?
Right.
So like that's just time and toil that you
Yeah.
yourself or somebody else is having to
Sure.
go do.
It's like writing meeting notes.
Exactly. Like
Right.
the outcome. What was the outcome of this attempted thing? Now, once you start translating that of like you figure again, you keep edging on like, well, what is the next thing for me to look at from that place of like, okay, now I start building you at the end of the day, you also start building a data pipeline of like, here's the conversation. How has this person become a client? This is what's important to them. Now I have a better picture. Now, if you have account management or you're doing account management for your clients, you know what actually, why and how, where they came from to get to you. And you now have some actionability there too on like how they use it, what their aspirations are, like how to potentially work with them. And then as you continue all the way down, you start figuring out when you start talking with yourself or other folks, then you start seeing like where are people like the massive time sucks. Like, and there's always tons and tons of massive time sucks. Um, very basic ones is like the account prep research for an account manager, account prep research for a salesperson. Um, all of those things go into it. If you've got, say you're owned by another organization, you have a formalized board, like the drafting, the creation of the quarterly business reviews, the monthly business updates. Those are all really massive time sucks for entrepreneurs and founders, etc. Is there a way you can automate that away from you? And you know it's going to come every single month. It's never not going to be there. But I do give a word of caution of like, don't automate the thing that takes like 1 or 2 hours a month to do. Like, do the thing that is like 1 to 2 hours a day, and or
Mm.
it's 5 to 10 hours a day across the entire team. Is there a way to solve for those kind of problems? And I characterize that. And if you go into the world of like the 4 quadrants of like what's important, high impact, low effort, you start figuring out those kind of things. I think one of the logical ways too, if you're sort of like, what should I start with? Go into these LLMs, Claude, ChatGPT, have it interview you about your business as like a business coach expert and like grill you on those kind of things.
That's interesting. So, what, like, you would say open up ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, and then what's the question you would ask it?
So
What's
I would
the
give it
context there?
in context. So say I'm John Doe and I run a hardscaping business in the Florida market.
Hardscaping. We're we're ready, Justin. We're moving on from
Hardscaping
lawn care.
business.
Every podcast is going to be about hardscaping from now on. I'm
Yeah.
fascinated by it.
So, and I have X amount of employees. I make X amount of money. I want to grow. Here is what my business is doing so far. Help me understand what I should know, be thinking about my business to grow it. If that's personnel management, human capital management, to areas that I should be investing in, to data that I should be looking at. Like, what do we just go through each one of those pieces? Because that's the magic of these LLMs, is that you really do have some of the best and brightest ideas encapsulated in these things. You just need to know how to ask it in the context of who you are that can make it actionable for you. And I think that's a key thing as you work with LLMs, giving it context of who you are and what it's working with is so important. And then actually, it's the foundation of everything we've talked about today. Is like the data that goes into the LLM, the better the answer is going to be for you. The more likely it's able to answer and solve the thing for you. If you're going
Yeah.
in and developing and creating a new AI agent solution for you, literally do an export of your key reports that you have, give those as context to the agent so it knows, hey, you have these fields with this type of data. It can do a data audit for you of like, where are you missing information? Where is it not right? You've got data that is not actionable because the way in which it's formatted. I can automate and format that for you. And now you have
Mhm.
clean telephone numbers and clean emails. All of that wonderful stuff you start being able to get at. So that's the sort of interview process that I think about here of like, what do we, um, and I'll share this with y'all is like, there's one of these that I built, which was Founder Mode. It was that off of Paul Graham's commentary of Founder Mode.
Mhm.
Took Founder Mode, threw that into a GPT and say, I need you to act like Founder Mode. Talk to me about myself and what I'm doing. So an action plan of one thing I need to do every single day, things I need to be asking of my employees, things I need to be asking of like people around me, things I need to be asking of my vendors, like this sort of like coach pushing you forward. Um, that's one clear use case of LLMs to scale it. And then obviously you can do a ton with the agents. Like go on for hours about this. Obviously, you can see I'm passionate about it.
So you're suggesting everybody goes to Paul Graham's blog, which hasn't changed its style sheets since like 1999, maybe. I don't think.
Which I think is like a low key like credibility,
Yeah, no, I mean
indicator on the web now.
it is cool, but it does look like it's from like 2 decades ago. And the founder mode thing was, I think, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old, that post. But go find it, copy it into your LLM, and then say, do all these things and ask me these questions. And then one thing that I always advocate for is after you've been interviewed by the founder mode thing, save that output somewhere, save it into a text file, because that stuff is important enough, where those answers are important enough, where you might want to shift LLMs, or you might want to use it for something else. Store it in a markdown file, store it in a text file, save it onto your desktop.
Yeah.
No.
It's all about context. All about
I think
context.
I'm going to go and do that this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a
I think I need-
GPT if you want to. It's already there.
Okay. Yeah. Hook me
I'll
up.
share it with you.
Send it out. We'll put it in the show notes.
I kind of like the idea also of maybe even taking that interview concept like that and using it a slightly different way. You made me think about this, which is it's interesting to think about going to your internal employees and either interviewing them about their job, recording it, and then like just saying, like, talk to me what you do. What's the worst part of your day? What are the things that you do? Hey, what are your tricks? What are the things that capturing tribal knowledge through interviews and then having LLMs parse it and then create process ideas out of it is probably a sneaky high fidelity way to generate a lot of ideas very quickly that you could probably do in an afternoon over lunch.
Yep.
I'll ask you one last kind of question, which is a little bit more future focused then, which is that if you were the CEO of a service company, what would you do to like design kind of the ideal operations dashboard? And maybe I'll change that question up a little bit to say, like, what would it show now? What would it show in the future, in your opinion, that most businesses aren't tracking yet? Like, what am I not tracking, or what are people not tracking in your hardscaping business that is going to show up on their, like, when the dominant hardscaping company 2 years from now is like crushing everybody else? What are they tracking in their CEO dashboard that people aren't tracking today?
Probably the human to agent interaction
Mhm.
in terms of successful resolution and positive outcome and recommendations by the AI agent adopted by the organization, which is the agent itself, because of, in theory, the amount of information that it is collecting should be able to help provide novel things. So you'll basically have human developed solution versus AI based generated solution. Also, you probably will have this at some point in time. We sort of track it right now, which is like the ROI for how much like element clients get back to be people. The human, literally, it's just going to be a gauge of human unlock, which is the amount of time your staff didn't have to interface with non-productive work for what they do.
You're almost talking about like feedback loop stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like
that's what you become. I think every CEO, every sort of manager of things, you're going to be an orchestrator of agents and
Feedback loops
and AI workflows in some capacity.
Yep.
You're still going to be interacting. If you're in the service industry, you're going to be interacting with humans, just straight up, unless you have like drone swarms flying around, cutting down trees or something like that. Great business concept. If you thought about it, you should get into that. I think there's gonna be a dearth of drone productivity needs in the country, I believe. So
somebody's still got to like convince another human being to buy my drone fleet rather than others, and that's going to require people, unfortunately.
Everything, and I say this now, is just like, I think the incumbent noise on text messages, emails, LinkedIn, etc., you're getting drowned out, and the nature of sales is going to be more business. It's going to be more human. I think we're actually, again, sort of, the tide went one way. I think it's going to go back the other way.
out of
Um,
necessity. Almost it would like choke itself out to
yes.
the point where it's almost like it kills the host, right? And like we're gonna go back to just like going out and having beers with people because like it's just gotten too noisy in the
Well,
other
i
space.
yeah, and, like, if you are, say, relying on, like, your agents to do research for you, like, who should I be working with? Like, to be honest, the social proofing of Google reviews becomes even more important than it ever was.
Hmm.
Better Business Bureau becomes even more important than it was because guess what? Like, those are artifacts and signals that people were basically going to highlight against. Um, so it's gonna be I'm very excited for the future, to be very frank. Like, I'm super excited for folks that, especially in the service and trades industry, of like if English is your second language, of like great, now you have this high fidelity like Betty Sue sounding tele answering person for you who can answer the phone for you. You sound great. Whatever, you show up and you do your thing. They have no idea that you can barely speak a particular type of language. That's awesome. Like that's an accessibility thing. Or conversely, like if you're hyper introverted and you hate doing all those kind of things, then you have agents calling on your behalf to go do some of that work. Um, and also like it also can make you do the work that you don't want to do. Of just like, hey, just go solve this problem for me. Go interface with this vendor, make sure I get paid. Like pester them until I get paid. So
Well, I really want to make a joke now about how this stuff is going to open doors, but I think we've already beaten that one to death.
yeah.
So, well, Doug, I just
Yeah.
thank you so much, man, for taking your for spending time with us today. I think we've really enjoyed this. There's things I've learned that I'm going to go and do. I'm going to go do the please send me the founder mode GPT. We'll share it as well. And I just want to say, like, I've always like, I love the way you think. You're one of those people who like you look at things in a and problems from a like an angle that I appreciate. And every time we talk, I feel like I walk away with new ideas. And obviously, not to mention like the 10 new AI tools you send me on Signal every week that like I cannot keep up with. But
What?
I really
That's my
appreciate it.
job.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Well, what are the top three? Drop the top three tools that
Oh
you'd
gosh,
recommend to the
dude.
people here.
If you are like in the like office work and have to do with a bunch of data stuff right now, if you have not gotten Quad, Quad Business, Quad Enterprise with Cowork, you're sort of you're being foolish.
Cowork
Um,
is so good.
Cowork, yeah, like I think it is incredible for folks that need like a data analyst but don't have the chops to do it. You need to have connected systems. So that's the other side of it. You need to have like a good CRM, or you have to have the ability, not even the ability. You just need to have a CRM that has data, has some degree of pieces in it. I think it's fantastic. It can do great stuff too, just even just like crunching data and doing research and work for you. Uh, tool other things that I just really love. ChatGPT's actually get again. I think ChatGPT is going to come back around, guys. I think this whole OpenAI, bringing in OpenClaw into the foundation is going to be like huge for them. I just, yeah, to be honest, you look at what Minimax is doing, Kimmy's doing it. These are other LLM models. They've all basically taken OpenClaw and plugged those in. OpenClaw very logically makes perfect sense to go out and explore and tinker with. But to be honest with you, it's like this sort of the world that I think we all want to be living in of I ask the thing and it solves the thing for me. I have the home automation thing. I have a friend who has solved what he characterizes like I spent numerous weeks and nights trying to figure out how to program my home automation system, and I solved it in 15 minutes with OpenClaw of like that type of stuff. Um, and then the other fun ones, like check out like Vappy and like retail.ai, like the voice agent things are really cool. Just it, it's just the nature of it of like you have a personal assistant that can do work for you of like you always think about this now, and I think this is what's so novel. Uber sort of allowed for us all to have like personal drivers. OpenAI and AI itself is all going to allow for us to have like personal assistants and personal
That's a
coders and
great.
personal tech.
That's a really, really great comparison, actually.
It's and the thing is, it's all being subsidized by the same groups that backed Uber and all these others.
Yeah.
So the cost to do this is dramatically cheaper than it's ever been. Um, and at the end of the day, that's really it. That's really it. If you got a little kid, the Gemini Storybook is a super cool little solution. I think it's free on Gemini. You can just tell the story that you want to have, and it'll create the imagery and has a nice, calm, soothing female voice read the whole storybook. You can
Yeah,
add in.
I built a version of that 2
I
years
was
ago.
gonna say,
Spent a lot of
I
time.
built this
I
and
Greg, I
now
was like,
okay.
hey,
Well, the whole damn thing.
yeah, that's the
I thought
biggest
I was a
challenge. Like,
genius.
yeah, the idea you have in your head, somebody who's probably executed against it in some
Yeah, it's
capacity.
yeah.
Um,
And better.
or yeah, or the really dumb idea that you think that no one else would care about. And so I'm on the board at the History Museum, and I've done this where we created a GPT, or we're working on this, created a GPT for certain like pioneers of St. Petersburg, that you have like conversations with them of like, and but it's based on who they were, based on their writing and all this other stuff. Who else would care about that? Like I did the same thing for one of my great great grandfather, and who else would care about that? Like my five family members, of being able to have a conversation with this person and what they would probabilistically say. Again, probabilistically say, not deterministically say, um, at a period of time. So that's the coolest aspect of it all.
And
So
Doug, last question then is, I think I maybe have asked you this before. Is there a book that you're going to write? Because I'd read it, I'd buy it. Come on, are you right? When's your book coming out?
I have been thinking about that. I should probably just like knock that out.
Okay, yeah.
I should just force my open call to say you're going to write a chapter on these things and how to think about it. Um, Look, at the end of the day, I don't think, if you're somebody that is curious and likes to learn, you've probably had, there's never been a better time to be alive. Like hands down. Like
Could not agree.
the capability of when I was running Certed, um, like just the things that I learned that I'd never thought of, because when I was, it's all service industries, of like how you actually properly mop a floor and like the chemicals that you put into it. I'd never thought I would think about that, but I'm also like, how would I have ever got these answers without having an LLM to be able to provide that at scale?
Could mop the floor, brother.
Yeah, mop the floor. And the way in which you mop it, you don't want to mop yourself into a corner now, do you?
No, no, you don't. Don't install OpenClaw, by the way, everybody. So let's just
Yeah,
or or
do not install OpenClaw
yeah,
unless you're doing it on like DigitalOcean droplets, or you want to give your information to a Chinese company.
yeah. All right. Well, I'm
I
going
for
to
one welcome our new overlords.
so I'm going publicly on the record. I'm still waiting for the Doug Smith book. I feel like there's a lot of this that needs to be written down, make its way to paper, which might be obsolete in like a week, but I'm waiting for it. Doug, thank you so much for being gracious with your time, spending with us. Really appreciate you, my friend. It's good to see you. Thank you for the conversation.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
All right,
Thanks,
dude.
Doug.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Yeah.